someone there to call your own. Just remember, my dear friend, you're not alone.
I mean, I think it's the whole cliche, oh, a lot of my friends liked boys, but I didn't. That really was my story. Especially as it relates to that. I did not see the attraction in my male friends. I just thought they were really good friends. And I understood that to be the extent of my attraction to them. Interestingly enough, a lot of my friends in primary school, they would always plan their weddings and they always drew their wedding dresses and they had all these elaborate plans for their weddings. And there was always a guy in a tux next to them. And for some reason, I didn't to see myself doing that. So for a while, uh, that that just was not discussed. Um, and I also understood because I had a very religious upbringing, um, that was not something that would be accepted as easily as I would have preferred. Um, so I sort of buried that down, and even during high school, when everything just sort of became a bit more in my face, um, I had a pretty hard time accepting that this is who I was, or that even that I was attracted to girls. So that was a bit difficult for me. I had about 2 years where I was just in this sexual overdrive, um, which was a bit rough. It was a bit rough for me. It was also very distracting. And I actually drank the most during that period of time. I remember I would go to school, I would get drunk, and I'd go home. Because I mean, I was at school, that was the only place where I was sort of free in at least in my head. I was and during that time it was just a lot of noise going on upstairs, especially with figuring out and realizing and then again accepting that I was attracted to everybody. Um, so that was a bit difficult for me. That entire process was just very difficult for me. I think I think I I think I came to terms with it a bit more in my later teen years. Um, I had my first girlfriend when I was about 16. But I mean it wasn't anything, it was more of, oh, we're together today and then tomorrow, no. But my first official relationship with a girl was I was 18. Um, that was, I guess, my introduction um to relationships, to official relationships. Um, and at that time, I had quite a few self-esteem issues, of course, coming out of that tumultuous couple years of not accepting myself and who I am, etc. Um, so I basically went into that relationship with a lot of self-doubt and emotional turmoil and whatnot. Um, but she was a trooper. I'm actually as confident, and I would tell anybody this at this point. I'm actually as confident as I am today, and I'm as comfortable in my own skin as I am today um because of my first relationship with her. Because of how comfortable she made me feel, because of how accepting she was of basically everything. Everything that I was at that time. So then that in itself helped me to realize that there was nothing wrong with me. It helped me to realize that, you know, I was fine how I was. There was nothing for me to change. There was nothing for me to, dislike about myself. I needed to start working on, you know, you're fine how you are, you love yourself and whatnot, whatnot. So, coming out of that relationship, um, I took a while actually to move past that. Of course, we were together for about 2 years. So in that 2 years, I had a lot of self-exploration. I had a lot of self-acceptance happening. But I also realized that back then, in the midst of self-acceptance and being all caught up in rediscovering myself or accepting myself, that didn't leave a lot of space for her. Well, not of course, because you don't know, but she's older. Seemingly always had a tendency to date older. So, um, we ended things on a really good note, actually. We're still pretty good friends. So yeah, uh, that's how I realized and I figured out that I was not on the heterosexual train. Um, Actually, my aunt told me I had a chat with her when I was 10. Actually, I don't remember this. But she said that I told her when I was 10 that I really like this girl and that I think that, this is what I want to do. And I was very serious with it. So interestingly enough, though, when I was a bit later in my teen years, I had the same conversation with her again. And I was like, I'm not sure if you noticed, but and she was like, yeah, you told me this already. So it was pretty easy coming out to my extended family. To my brother, it was easy. I think he knew. Um, my father's religious, terribly. I have not told him as yet. So yeah. I've not told him as yet. But his family is very religious, and I understand um his religious upbringing and the societal upbringing that he was brought up. Well, societal upbringing, obviously. So I've sort of accepted that I'm not expecting head over heels acceptance. Um, my mother was a bit different. I sort of reassured myself before I told her because she had homosexual friends that she had no other choice but to accept me because then it would be hypocritical for her not to. That was my thought process behind that. Um, so I never necessarily had a conversation where I was like, "Oh, mommy, I think I'm gay." No, I actually told her that my first girlfriend was coming by, and I said, so I've been dating this person. The person is a girl and she's coming by. What do you think? And then, and then we had a very civilized conversation about it. She asked how long is she staying for? Where is she going to stay? And we worked on the logistics of it. And she was very she was and she still is very accepting of it. However, quite a few of my colleagues and even my current partner at the time seems to think that my mother would prefer if I had a boyfriend. This has not been voiced to me. But I would like to think, as I've been led to believe, that she'd be fine with whoever. Um, once I'm happy, once we're happy, once we're doing what we should be doing. Um, so that's how I told my mom. I haven't told my dad yet. So it's a conversation that I should have had a while ago. Um, yeah, it's just one of those conversations that I would have avoided for as long as possible because I avoid things. Um, things that I'm not 100% sure of how they will end. I tend to avoid them or put them off for a very long time. So this is just one of those conversations that I was not going to have unless I definitely actually needed to have it. Because on one hand, it's like, okay, he's living in the US, so I mean, he would have noticed. He would have had to come into contact with quite a few more persons, in the LGBT spectrum than he would have had to if he was living in Ghana. So I think based on, I guess, societal pressure or based on new information or new education on the fact that they're just normal people, hopefully his perception would have changed. If not changed in a way that would be more accepting, but at least changed in a way that it's more of a, okay, I respect that this is, the person's life. So then my religious teachings and my upbringing should not overlap. To me, um, I wouldn't want to have a child or a dependent unless I knew for certain that I was mentally, financially ready to support him or her. The reason being, I see a child, well, obviously, a child is a responsibility. It's an entire life. It's that person's likes, dislikes, mishaps. If anybody pushes your child down in the corridor, you need to be calm enough to say, okay, you know what, this is an experience that you're learning from, not run into the school and shoot up, you know. Um, so I think there's that sort of emotional maturity that needs to be there that I don't think I have right now. I also don't think I'm financially ready for that. Um, and I also feel like they take away a lot of freedom. And that's just it. I tend to enjoy my freedom. I mean, even with my volunteering and everything, I was like, I love that I can get up one day and just go to Maracaibo and then come back when I want. Like I can't do that with a child. Um, so while I love children, while I love um everybody with a child, I have a lot of friends with kids. I love them and I send them back home. And I love that part too. I love children. I love being around children, but I just don't think, at least not now or in the next 5 to 10 years, that I will be ready mentally to support or to be depended upon by another human. So essentially it all comes back to you accepting where you are. If it is that at any point you, as a female, find yourself attracted to another female, or you as a male find yourself attracted to a male, you as a male or female find yourself attracted to anybody, any gender, anything. Um, it's perfectly normal. Um, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly along the lines of, okay, this is what makes me happy. This is what I'm comfortable with. This is who I should be. A lot of the times we have persons who are so at odds with their attraction, with who they're attracted to, with who they feel they're most comfortable with, that they end up in these tumultuous marriages. I mean, they're so afraid, or they have been so indoctrinated against being who they're most happy being, that they end up messing up quite a few lives, their own, whoever they end up marrying, their children, essentially. Either that or they end up living double lives. And that's even worse. So honestly, if you really are realizing that, you know what, this is who I'm meant to be, this is who I'm happy with, this is like, in this sphere, you might not have the person at your side at this moment. But if you're realizing as a girl that you're going around with your friends and blah, 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 and you're seeing the guys and you're really only seeing them as a friend, then I don't think that that's something that you should push, especially if you are feeling those proverbial butterflies or anything else when you are with a particular female friend, or if you find yourself attracted to women, or even if you find yourself attracted to both, I think you should first accept that this is where things are going with me, and you should basically see your attraction not necessarily just as a spectrum, but with an open mind. Also, attraction comes and goes. Um, and I think this is a very important point that I want to make. There are a lot of persons who are like, "Oh, you've been straight all your life. How come you're attracted to women now at this old age?" Um, I hate that. I absolutely hate that. Your attraction or your sexuality is fluid for a lot of persons. A lot of persons realize either at a late stage, at an early stage, at a middle stage. It doesn't matter when you realize it. The point is that you've realized it, your life has evolved in a certain way, and this is where you are. Um, However, a lot of persons would see, oh, you're too young to know that you're attracted to boys or girls. You should give it another couple years. But what you also need to realize is that once you're in tune with your attraction, once you're in tune with your intuition and you're in tune with my likes, my dislikes, then you're gonna know pretty early on. Or even if your attraction comes at age, I don't know, age 6 to 5, then that's perfectly fine. Because all that means is that you have another side of yourself to explore at that time, and you should accept it. You should accept yourself, and then that makes it so much easier for everybody involved. I've been very fortunate in this journey. I know this is not necessarily everybody's story. I know some friends who are terrified to even dress a certain way because their parents just say things. Or I actually know a guy who was put out of his house. So there are all these terrible experiences that quite a few persons that I know have had, but I just have been very fortunate to have loving friends, loving family, um, and I align myself with persons who share similar views, or at least are allies, or um, and even in my line of work, I don't necessarily think that I would intentionally know that an organization is anti-LGBTQ and go work with them. I think I'm very strong on me being comfortable at work and me being able to have certain discussions, me being able to confide in you. Like there needs to be that level of comfort, like mental comfort for me. So I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder. Like, did I walk a certain way? Did I dress a certain way? And are people questioning? Because I know a lot of persons in Guyana would refuse to just ask you to your face, hi, is A, B, C, D. You know, they would rather ask somebody else. And like to avoid all of that, I would rather just work in a space where it's comfortable, it's accepted, it's encouraged and endorsed. So no, I have not had any terrible experience since having revealed my pansexual self to persons in Guyana.
There is always someone there to call your own. Just remember, my dear